Hello, it's been a minute. I kind of went a little bit nuts. So I finished the Single Point in Space episode, or at least I finished my part of it. I'm waiting for like one last musical cue to come in, and the sound team is basically done with it, but they give me a good deal. But the other side of that deal is if they get like really well paying corporate work, I go onto the back burners. They wrap that up, and so I've been kind of in that space where I'm like, we're basically done with this episode for like 3 weeks. So I made the mistake of like looking ahead to the next episode, and all I saw was this big timeline full of green screen stuff. And instead of feeling like, oh, I'm making good progress, I'm finishing episodes, I was more like, I am going so slow, and I kind of just stayed in that crunch mode. So I've been blasting through shots though. I've been working really hard trying to make all of this episode work. It's I set it up so that I wanted to give the impression that the plot was moving forward, so I always have, he's always moving from kind of scene to scene, and over the course of like the first 5 minutes, there's 4 different like elevators and escalators and 4 different vehicles. It is absolutely ridiculous, and so like I can't ever just rest in a scene. Every single shot is something completely new that has to be made from scratch, which is kind of fun, but also again, it's how I want to avoid doing things in the future. But yeah, I made this kind of little taxi car here. I have a video about modeling cars kind of like this that I'll link to below if you're curious about that. But it looks really good under this nice even diffused lighting, but I found it kind of looked fake when just kind of lit with a point light, and so I tried to kind of add this wraparound lighting thing to make it more diffused, and that helped quite a bit. But anyways, yes, I want to work on another shot in that sequence right now where the car basically stops on an overpass as like the AI driver is like, wait a second, I'm getting new orders or whatever. And I don't know, I think it's kind of fun because I very loosely touched on overpasses in the 1-minute tutorial.
Now model the rest of the freeway overpass. This should be easy because it's just rectangles, but don't forget your edge loops. Select all your new geometry and apply a new material. Use some sort of cement image. Unwrap it using a cube projection. It works good in this case.
But today I want to just go harder into like, let's actually try to do a good overpass that could actually hold up with like the road markings. And whenever I'm modeling something that exists in real life, where I think, okay, if we're going out of our way to model this thing that really exists, let's do like one thing different at least to kind of make it ours, to make it interesting. So I want to try to do that. Okay, let's just try modeling kind of a fun Jersey barrier kind of thing here. Do I have screencast keys? Turn those on. Yeah. And I'm not gonna worry about scale or anything. I'm just gonna try to do whatever feels right. So the Jersey barriers are the cement things on the edge of roads that I think technically the things along the edge of overpasses aren't Jersey barriers, but it's you get what I'm saying. So we'll pull this down. Let's extrude this out for like a curb kind of thing. And I want it to be kind of weird. So here, let's use Control R, add some edge loops here. I'm gonna pull down this middle bit and create kind of like a little subsection in the middle. Here, let's extrude this out, tuck it in, and if I extrude that down and pull it out, yeah, that'll be fun. And maybe we'll put like a little warning light or something, kind of a little highway reflector on all of those. But that's kind of interesting. Here, let's Control B, bevel this a little. No, it's too soon to bevel. Let's see. I want one more layer of one more segment, kind of like this along the end. So here, let's do Control R, grab these faces, bring them up a little bit. Let's go to individual origins. I'm gonna scale them out, and if I just extrude downwards, what's the best way to do this here? I want them to follow these outer contours here. So let's pull them out like this. And so right here, if I hit Shift G coplanar, that's gonna select every other face that exists along that same plane, I think anywhere. So if I select it, yeah, we get both of them, which is a nice way to select. I don't know, it's a little personal challenge for me. Can I always figure out slightly more efficient ways of selecting things, because selecting things is what half of my life is when I'm modeling in CG. Right here you can see these two faces because we can see the outline, and kind of there's this weird zigzag. I don't know if that'll come through in the compression, but that means the two faces are existing in the same place, which will lead to render errors. So let's select this whole thing, and we just have to like rotate it or scale it or do anything. So I'm just gonna scale it up a little bit. And here, let's grab from here to here, and this will be the section that hangs down below the overpass. We'll grab this line. I love when you grab one thing and then control click somewhere else where it'll just select everything in between the two. I use that all the time. In fact, you can even do this and then control shift click, and it'll just select the whole like box from there to there. In this case, I don't know why it grabs this one. I feel like it should just be But here, you can see like that. It just grabs that whole zone. I never remember that one exists, but in theory, it could be a big time saver. And I think in between every barrier, I also want there to be like a segment where there could be like a lamppost or something sticking up. So here, let's add one of those too. Just scale this here, extrude it down, and I want it to kind of interlink a little bit. So let's see if we can do this without making everything go absolutely ridiculous. First, let's see. And I like this because this is now a wacky thing that forces me to have to think, I don't know, make it feel as if it's a little bit engineered. But if I extrude this out like this, and let's Alt-D, create another instance of this so I can slide it over and we can see how the tessellations kind of fit. So if I go over here now and extrude this one out, you can see the other one is going over. So now we can zoom in, and even though we're modifying the other one, we can see how it all kind of fits together, which is cool. In fact, I mean, if we were really cool, let's use Control-R, add an edge loop, Control-B to bevel it. And I don't use this option much. Actually, let's bevel this even more here. Control-B, bevel, oh, yeah. Because normally if you extrude, it leaves all these extra faces here. But if you open up this and click Dissolve Orthogonal Edges, yeah, that's why I don't use it. You kind of get this extra face here that you still have to clean up. And so I think what I would rather do instead, pull all of these back and then extrude these out properly like this. In fact, let's go over to this side and make sure it's all fitting together so we get that. And then we can just grab this side here and extrude that. And once we select everything, hit Control-B and bevel it, you know, it'll all actually kind of feel cool like that. I dig that. Let's see. Let's do one more piece. How should this fit in? I like the idea that it could kind of, you know, it matches like that. I don't know. I'm kind of making this up a little bit as I go. Can I, if I pull this in like this and then extrude that, yeah, that feels pretty good. And then I think I'm still going to, here, I'm going to pull this. If you zoom back, you can still kind of see the overlap, even though they're not actually overlapping, but I'm just going to offset it even more so this all works. I'm going to UV unwrap this first, and then I'm going to select everything and bevel it, just because I always like beveling things too soon, because it lets you see how things actually kind of look, but that makes it harder to UV unwrap because they're dealing with a lot more geometry. So let's see, what's the best way to unwrap this? We'll find out. It's always hard to find materials for cement for me for some reason, just because it's like I want it to feel new, but not too new, and sometimes I get excited about a material and it ends up being the wrong one. But here, let's create a material. We'll call it Overpass. We'll make the base color in image texture here. Load in. Let's use this one. I think I like this kind of bluish color. I think that could be interesting. So we'll select this. Here, let's open up the UV editor. And actually, here, if we're going to hit Z, Material Preview, yeah, that's mapped crazy. Let's hit A, select everything, U, Cube Projection, and it kind of just does a thing. I like having the top half be kind of blue and the bottom be this other kind of cement. That's cool. Let's see, how do we want to do this? I think I'm just going to go through and unwrap every piece individually. So we'll grab all of these. Oh, and I'm grabbing a lot of extra stuff, so let's try our trick here. This, and then Control-Shift-Click here, and we'll grab our extra little pieces by hand there. And if we hit U, unwrap, yeah, we get this interesting shape here. I have UV squares activated in the preferences, so I go to Grid by Shape. Yeah, and where should we, let's see. Let's try lining it up. This looks kind of like a curb already. So if we stick that there, is that going to be good? Is that going to be bad? It's kind of bad, isn't it? Here, let's try. Actually, that feels okay to me. It's kind of looping around and using some of this bit here, but yeah, that feels not horrible. With those still selected, I'm going to hit H to hide those, so I can hit A and Cube Projection, and it'll reproject everything without affecting the bits that are hidden, which is a nice thing to be able to do. Let's just slide these around for a while and see if we find kind of a happy accent of something that looks kind of okay. None of this feels real, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes like the texture and the model just align perfectly and you go, oh, this is great. I really do tend to rely on those happy accents when it comes to texturing. This just does feel like it's a texture mapped onto geometry, which so a lot of times what I'll try to do is I'll try to find, you know, a wear pattern or like a corner or something in there. that I can line up with something so that it feels like they're working together. But in this case, I don't know. I guess this works okay right here, doesn't it? Actually, I'm going to grab from here over to here, Control plus to expand the selection, and maybe one more time. Yeah, because I want all of this to be contiguous. You can see here, this bit is projected differently than here. If I hit U, unwrap, that's, right now it's kind of doing this wraparound thing here, and that's because it's trying to keep this bit as part of it. If we get rid of the end pieces, it has less to try to deal with. Let's see. Is this also trying to do a thing? I think that's okay. You unwrap. You can see it's a lot more square. And then if we go to grid by shape, it actually cleans everything up a little bit better. There we go. That's kind of cool. And because this one's a square grid, but this one is sloped, you can see that the texture actually follows the geometry a little bit. So maybe we can use that to our advantage. Here, I'm going to slide it up here until we get to this kind of wear pattern thing. Yeah, that looks good here. I might scoot it. There's that cable hanging down. I'm going to offset it from that, and that's feeling good. I like that. Here, let's see. How's the other side? Okay, well, we're getting a little bit of this obvious. You can see it kind of stretching, but maybe that's, you know what, maybe that's okay. In fact, if I use Control R, I think the geometry will actually follow that texture. So if I do that and hit Control B to bevel it here, let's add some more geometry. And then if I select this middle row from here over to here, and hit Alt-S, that'll slide it along its normal, so we actually, again, have the geometry echoing the texture, which is always cool. And here, let's finish these pieces. Let's have these wrap all the way around here. So I'm going to grab this bottom piece and this bottom piece, E to extrude them down, scale them down so they kind of match, and they're sticking out the equivalently all the way around. Come on. What's the right axis? I think I'm modeling this on a different axis than I'm used to, so most of my muscle memory is kind of fighting me, but here, select linked, U cube projection, or yeah, let's do our cube projection here. Although it's being kind of weird. I don't know why. It used to kind of like overlap everything. Maybe this is on purpose, but I kind of liked it overlapped because that meant everything was just hovering in the same space, and you could just put the entire cluster somewhere kind of useful. But let's try scaling this up, and this isn't working. This looks no good. Let's try a different texture. See, that already looks better, doesn't it? At least that looks like, I don't know, a piece of like construction equipment or something. Even that looks cool. Okay, maybe we'll just find something totally wacky and we can just like lean into it, you know? Here, I mean, here's a couple actual jersey barriers there. I mean, very overused, but let's see how. Yeah, and that just works, doesn't it? That's working okay. I think I might clean up some of this here. Like if I Alt-H, we'll get these ones back and we'll position them on a corner like this. That works good. Hide those again. We'll reselect this bit here. Let's see, from there to there. Plus expand the selection. And let's see if we can just scale it up. Here, let's unwrap this inner bit too. U unwrap. Place it somewhere. I really do want this kind of wear pattern to be going down the edge. Oh, and it looks like we're upside down. So if we swap this around. Okay, yeah, this is feeling better. And here, I'm gonna bevel this bit here. I want this to be rounded, but I want everything else to just be only slightly beveled. Here, let's bevel these end chunks slightly more. Control B, yeah, get some geometry in there. And then this big piece here. First, I'm gonna add Alt-H. Let's bring this back. I'm gonna grab this and bevel this out a little bit so it kind of like curves in there. And then let's grab everything and just bevel it one more little bit. And that's fine. Again, it's maybe kind of an overused texture. One thing I might do is try to combine it, because this just feels too grungy. I want it to feel like it's kind of a clean overpass, is just use a mix color node here and just mix it with something kind of gray or maybe slightly beige and see how that works. Anyways, maybe this works better than I think, especially if we put a light over the top of it, and maybe we'll just fix up. Oh yeah, that's not as bad as I thought, especially mixed in with that other color, so it's a little bit more subtle. I do want to fix these bits. Here, let's go into UV editor here, and there's kind of these seams already in the texture, and if I line this up with that, I want one of those seams right here on the corner, and I don't know where that corner is, but oh, there we go. But let's do the same thing to this one over here. Line that up. Cool. There we go. One last thing we could do is let's add a rail. When in doubt, always add a rail. What's the best way to do this? I'm going to add a plane here. Kind kind of on top of this. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and I'm just going to model it with vertices because I know how to model with vertices, and I am not great at extruding Bezier curves and stuff. So if we do this, I'll bring that up right here. I wanted to kind of do a wacky kind of wraparound kind of deal. So here, let's go this way, extrude it out, extrude it down, extrude it. Yeah, we'll kind of have it follow the contours of the barrier here. So let's let's pull this down, this over. And ideally I should just mirror this, but I'm instead just, I think, gonna try to match it by hand here. So we want it to go back over the same amount, and then we want it to go about the same distance away, up this way, and back down. And what's cool about this is now we hit everything and hit Control-Shift-B. We'll bevel these points, and that'll just turn into our curve. Here, let's go right-click, Convert to Curve, which gives us our new curve options. We can go to Geometry and turn up the bevel depth, and there we go. Now we have a curve going around, and that's it's maybe a bit much, isn't it? But maybe that's kind of cool. Is that cool? Tab back, maybe turn down the depth just slightly and raise up this top bit a little bit. And right click, convert back into a mesh. And here, let's right click shade auto smooth. Actually, we'll just go shade smooth all the way. That looks pretty good. And we could select this loop here and Alt E, extrude face along normals, just kind of give it that little mount point. And I think in this case that's the best way to do it. And just no one will be looking at this. What's the best way to create a little clamp here? I'm gonna Alt click to select that loop. Shift D, gonna scale it down. So we just got this little section here. Slide it on over. Alt E, extrude faces along normals. And I'm gonna grab some of these back faces here. Let's recenter. Whoop. Extrude in. SX0 to flatten this out. Extrude, scale it up and over. And here we go. We'll have it so it doesn't intersect that, and that's looking pretty good. Or does it? No, it looks like a cartoon. Here, let's get it nice and narrow. Let's grab all of these faces and hit Alt S, and just bring them all in along their normals. And yeah, that's feeling a little bit better. Yeah, this seems like it's sufficiently kind of mounted. Here, let's go back to Shade Auto Smooth and just go into the data properties under normals and change the setting here so it's everything we want it to be smooth is smooth. And if we select this, then this, and hit Control J, it'll automatically propagate over there. And that feels pretty good. Actually, one thing that could be kind of fun is if we wanted, we could put kind of a directional arrow on this. Here, let's try adding another material. New, we'll call this diagonals. Assign here, and if we use a base color of an image texture and load in, yeah, let's try this one here. And right now it's like this, so let's select this one and then control click over to here. You unwrap, where are you? And try to line it up like this. How does this look if we go into rendered view? All right, we'll scale it up until it kind of. Huh? Okay. Yeah, and you remember we had this mixed node over here that kind of mixed in beige over the top of our image texture, which I still think is a good idea, but I want to make it a little bit more complex. So I could just copy this and paste it into the other node group too for the stripes to make them all uniform, but I think I actually want to make it a node group, just a group we can apply to any material wherever we want, so it'll just, you know, uniformly beigify it, and we can control it at one point, and it'll propagate across every material immediately if we ever decide we want to, like, tweak something. So let's see. What's the best way to do this? Let's do Control G. That turns it into a group, and you can see here's the shader editor is still lagging. It should. I'm not even touching it right now, and it's still just thinking. Shouldn't be doing that. But you can see here's our mix node. It's just the only thing in the group, and all of the inputs for the node are automatically going into the group input. I actually don't want all of that. I don't want to be able to control all of that from outside the group. All I want is the image texture to go in and a different image texture to go out. So I'm going to, that's A is the image texture. I'm going to disconnect, let's see, this one with control right click because I have Node Wrangler turned on. And let's go under the, let's see, group settings here, slide this open. And I'm going to delete everything but A, just negative, negative. I'm going to rename A to say image texture, great. And already, here, let's go to node properties, and we'll call this I feel like this should let me name the node group. Maybe you can only do it outside the node group. Oh, there we go. Yeah. The beigifier. Yes. And then we go to the other one. We can go Shift A group. And there we go. There's the beigifier. We can just throw that on there. Okay. What else? What else we want to do in there? So we can just now globally affect how much the beige is affecting everything. I think I want to try doing something a little bit crazy, though. Let's hit Shift A. Ambient occlusion, and if we control shift click on this, let's see. Let's do it in the other material so we can actually see more. If we go to overpass, go into here and hit control shift click, we can see the ambient occlusion. If I put a color ramp on there, which one's the preview? Yeah, there we is. Is this the right one? Yeah, there we go. We can dial it in a little bit what the black level is, and so we can really add some dirt where we want to. That feels really good. So I'm going to use this now as the mix factor, and that controls what'll be the image texture and what'll be the beige color. And here, if we tab back out, let's control shift click on this, so we're seeing it instead. And now, ideally, well, right now it looks like it's backwards. It looks like we're seeing the image texture in the crevices, and everything else that should be clean has the dust. So let's just tab back into the beigifier and drag this one into this one instead, and this will, now the dust is whatever color A is. We'll make it darker, we'll make it a little bit beige, and I don't know if that does anything great, but if you look at it without, that just looks a little bit too clean, and then you get that sort of that dust in the cracks, and I guess that is actually doing quite a bit. Let's go back to diagonal. Using the viewer, the preview viewer inside a node group is kind of weird because you can see the chain goes all the way outside of the node group, and then it has this new output, which is kind of wacky. But all you got to do is go back to this last node and control shift click, and you can see the whole thing. And look at that, the ambient occlusion goes over everything. Ambient occlusion, I think, only really works in cycles, and even then it is computationally intensive. It's this additional layer of stuff it has to calculate, but I often think it's worth it, especially lately. That just looks really cool. I guess we never did unwrap this beam thing here. Let's see, should we do that? Let's select everything. Actually, let's we have to pick a seam, otherwise it doesn't know how to unfold a cylinder. So let's alt click on this, control E, mark seam here. Where is it? Mark seam. And then if we select all of that and hit U, unwrap, it should be good. Unless if it has a cap on the end, in which case it'll be confused. And that's pretty good. Here, let's go to grid by shape. We can scale it up, and let's see if we kind of stick it. Maybe we can use this wear pattern a little bit and actually have it. Yeah, there we go. That looks pretty good. This is good. This kind of feels like a nice little sci-fi kind of thing. Let's go here and actually just model our little lamppost. So I like the idea that it's again a lamp that's designed to fit specifically on this jersey thing here. In fact, what we could do is, although we shouldn't because we already unwrapped everything, but we can go from here to here and then grab these ones also. And Alt-E extrude faces along normals, and probably we'll want to bevel these a little bit too. Control-B to bevel. And we'll just make our lamp fit right into this notch, as if it's all designed to work together, as if somebody made this work on purpose. Here, we'll grab this edge and this edge here, extrude them down, scale them outwards, maybe tuck them in a little bit, and then Alt-E, extrude along normals. We'll go inwards, which probably means now my normals are a little bit messed up, so I'm going to select everything and hit Shift-N to make sure they're all calculated right. Maybe bevel this just a tiny little bit. Select all this, U, or actually here, let's go from here to here and hit U, unwrap, and is that already squared up? Yeah, that's already pretty square. Let's, what's a good thing to do here? I might mirror it. It's kind of weird, but here, let's go like this. And then if we select this again, remember we can select this and then Control-Shift-Click, select this entire grid area. That's cool. I'm going to move this top piece down like that. And now we can, like if we position it here, you can see, you can see it's mirroring the whole thing, which is, I don't know, it adds a little bit of intentionality to it. Or what if we try going the other way here and kind of having it like that? Like you can see the mirroring, I'm not going to worry about that. Control-R, add an edge loop. Control-R, add an edge loop. I'm going to grab this grid area here. Alt-B, extrude faces in. Just add a little bit of, yeah, okay. I'm going to grab this piece and extrude it up and in. And we'll just go all the way up here. Here we go. We've got our, I mean, this would be a lot of lamps, wouldn't it? Maybe I'll just bring it down here and they'll be like This is where a lamp could go if they ever wanted to install one, and then we'll only have a lamp be every like 3 actual sections. I think that'll be a good idea. In here, let's Control-Alt-Select this here. We'll bevel this outer ring just a tad, and the same thing with right here. If we can select it, come on, come on. Yes, Control-Alt and Control-B smooths out the whole thing, and here we'll just hit U. Cube projection, stick that somewhere where we don't need this to be good. I just want it to be, I'll put it in a dark area so it does feel like it's its own. Oh, I ran out of RAM. Well, I ran out of, yeah, okay, now that's feeling like a thing. I like that. Okay, so, oh, I'll bet we ran out because it's trying to calculate the ambient occlusion and stuff on the fly. That is a pretty heavy effect. And to be modeling while it's trying to render and calculate that with every move you do is probably a lot to ask of it. But let's see. I want to see what these look like even more so. Yeah, and they all just fit together. And the other side looks okay too. I don't know. I might not be as enamored with the red and white stripes later. It might be cool, but here, let's duplicate this. Put it on the other side also. And let's add a road. And let's see. We're gonna do like 2 lanes and some sort of like pull off kind of thing to the side. And I don't even know an elegant way to do this. I should have been doing this all kind of by the numbers so that things had actual values, and I could be like, the road is this long. Instead, I'm just going to eyeball it, and we'll tweak it all after the fact. So we've got this here. This will go to the other side of the barrier. And let's see, we're going to add more geometry, but I'll do that along this axis in a second, because we're actually going to be using that specific geometry to place the road decals. So I might only add, geometry to this axis right here. And let's take a look. Let's add a little camera up above and see how we're looking. Control-0. And it might actually be a little bit too detailed. It's feeling, I don't know, just a little too much like it's trying hard to be sci-fi, you know, and I want it to feel very casual and kind of utilitarian, but we'll see. If I just get rid of these red and white stripes, it might feel a little bit better. Let's try doing the road here. Oh, geez Louise. What's the best way to do the road? I haven't done a road in a little bit, because there's kind of 3 different layers you want to do for a road. You want to have that kind of those areas of light and dark that go along the lanes where, you know, all of the engine oil is dripping down, and also the tires kind of leave a darker area or a lighter area. But then you also have the markings, and all 3 of those could use different UV maps, and it can be a little bit much. But let's just start with the base asphalt. Here, we'll call this asphalt. Is that how you spell asphalt? Turn the base color into an image texture. I made one a couple of years ago for the hyperbole scene. I think I already shared them, but I'll share all of these textures for the road below. Okay, yeah, I think I already shared most of these. Here's tileable road. Let's see if it still does as advertised. And that looks okay. Here, let's go to the top and hit U, unwrap, and rotate it, and make sure it's actually going along the texture here. Right now it feels very, very smooth, so let's actually drag this texture down into the normal, going through a bump map, and that makes it so it actually, in theory, should make this whole thing here, if we drag it into the height, a little bit bumpy. I'm going to turn the distance down to 0.1. You only need a tiny, tiny little bit. And actually, the thing that's bothering me is these Jersey barriers just look a little bit too short now. They look like they're only, like, I don't know, 2 feet tall. I want them to be just a tad taller, so I might do this, and because these are all instancing the same object, hopefully I can just go here, expand the selection a few times, bring it down, bring it out, and maybe we'll mirror it on this axis and scale it out a little bit. Just add one more layer of segmenting, and yeah, make these things feel a little bit taller and more substantial. Okay, so this first texture here is just going to be using the base UV map. Here, if we go down to UV maps, we're going to call this base road. We're going to add another one, which is going to be the tire marks. Oh boy, let's see. Am I doing this right? And just to kind of explain what we're doing, like, I think this makes sense. You can see these are the faces selected here. This is them over in the UV editor, and we're deciding how this geometry is placed on the texture. But sometimes you want 2 different textures overlaid on the same piece of geometry. Like if you're laying stuff up, or if you have like a logo or a decal or something that you want to position right there, but that doesn't match the way you want the other texture lined up, you need to have different UV coordinates for each of those textures. So that's what we're doing with the road here. We like how this image texture is laid out, but we want to add other ones that maybe don't necessarily line up how this one does. So here in the data properties, that's how you add another UV map, but also in the UV editor, make sure, here let's tab in edit mode, select everything, and we'll go all the way over to the right. Here you can see the actual list, and that's a little bit hidden, but yeah, just make sure you're actually modifying the one that you want to be tweaking, otherwise things get very confusing. And the third thing you have to do is in the shader editor, you have to specify which textures are using which UV maps, are using which coordinates. So you do that just with input UV map, and all of the ones we've made will automatically be here. So base road goes into the tileable road, and here I'll duplicate this and change it to tire marks. We'll drag that into this one here. I'm going to change this to this shine map I made, and if we use a mix color node here and drag this over and set it to, let's see, like multiply, you can see it's already doing a thing. But if we go back in the UV editor here and now I start moving this around, you can see it just moves around the stripes and not the underlying texture. You guys get it. Here, let's scale this up by 2, and now we get 2 lanes. And here, let's position the 2 lanes how we want them, like that. But I do want my little emergency pull-off, remember, so I might just add some more geometry. Control R, slide it over to here, and grab this stuff here. And here, if we go to stripes, or shine, I'm going to stick it somewhere where it just doesn't have any dirt, and there we go. Now we only have our 2 lanes where we want them. And this is a little bit intense. I might turn that down just a little bit. And honestly, a lot of times these lines affect the specularity of the way the light hits stuff, so we could... this might be getting a little bit wild. And right now, this slider here is deciding how rough the material is. You can see if we make it all the way smooth, it still looks rough, and that's because our bump map is doing quite a bit. So I might turn that down even more. I think it's more intense than we think. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to use this texture here to control the roughness. Like that, and it's still pretty glossy. So let's add in a color ramp here, and black is perfectly glossy and white is perfectly rough. So let's make it so it can never be that glossy. We'll pull it up so it all gets pretty rough. But what I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing here and mix in our tire ruts like that. And again, the dark areas are glossier, so we get this nice, complex kind of like reflection map there, which honestly doesn't, these lines are a little bit too obvious. I feel like they should be all blurred out, but this is still kind of interesting. And also, all of these vehicles are self-driving, so I guess I kind of like that. Like, self-driving cars always stay exactly in the middle of, their lane in this world or whatever, so it's just a more precision driving environment. Yeah, that's cool. And also, that looks interesting. I like that. And actually, let's bring in a vehicle here. Let's actually start making this to scale. Let's link in our taxi, and I think I have it in a collection or something. Yeah, quick car, and let's see how that works. I don't remember if I already have it. And there we go. And you see what I mean? Like, the texturing in that one image, I love it. It's so nice and diffused, and in this one, it just kind of feels like it's a little CG car. I think it really does need something more complex to reflect, maybe, so you can really get a sense of the materials. But this car, I know, is actually modeled to scale. So let's kind of position it here. And if I select all of these and deselect the car and just scale it down, does that... Okay, yeah, that actually works. So here, we'll do that. Line up these tracks here with the width of the car. Yeah, okay, that's looking good. That's looking good. Okay, now that we have that there for reference, let's add the lines in the road. Gonna save the file, go into Material Preview, gonna select the road, and under UV Maps, we're gonna hit plus, and this will be called road markings. Yes, and I'm going to do kind of what we've already done up here. I'm going to let's see, duplicate this color, mix color, and I'm just gonna have this control the mix factor so we can make the color be whatever we want. I'm gonna load in my markings. I think we'll just go with this one, and how does that? Okay, it's already doing a thing. Great, and then if we go into the UV editor, whatever we do, it is not affecting anything. We are changing road markings, which means we have not yet told this texture to use the road markings UV coordinates, which makes sense. It's three pieces of information. Yeah, I already covered all that. You get it. You know what I did wrong. Change this to road markings, then drag that in there, and then if we go to the UV editor, woo, it's all crazy. So first, let's do this lane over here. I'm gonna start adding a lot more geometry, which shouldn't mess up the other UV maps, which is great. I'm gonna select this line here. Let's go to crosswalks and lines here, and I'll just grab a whole white line right there. That's pretty good. I'm gonna do the exact same thing right here, except I want to have it be that caution sighting thing you sometimes have on overpasses. I think they're supposed to like bounce you. They're supposed to be pointing the way back into the lane, so I might flip this horizontally. And what's fun is the amount I scale it is the angle of the lines, and so I get to decide, I think that looks kind of cool like that. In fact, that's almost too uniform here. I'm gonna add some more geometry here, grab this middle bit, and just tuck it somewhere where there's no markings. And then if I want, I can stick something here that says like, do not stop or emergency stop only or something like that. The rest of this is looking very intense, so I'm gonna grab this whole section and again just tuck it down there, right there, until we decide what we actually want to do. I want to put a dotted line in the middle here, so you unwrap, and that one's a little dense. I have 3 different densities here. Let's grab, I guess, that one. And that looks good, but the lines are maybe too thick. Looks a little cartoony. Everything always looks better with when the lines are thin, for like when it comes to graphic design or like sci-fi kind of stuff. I don't know. And is that all we're doing? Here, let's add another one over here. Well, that went faster than I thought. Okay, here, let's grab everything. Let's deselect the stuff we don't want to include. We're gonna make all this row the same object here. Here, we'll grab this, Control J. And something's messed up. Is it bad that I actually kind of like how this looks a little bit? Just like that flat white. It feels, I don't know, kind of clean. But let's figure out what's going on. And my guess is that has to do with the UV maps here. Like this one has all of these 3. This one is probably defaulting to one of these other pre-existing UV maps. And hello, future Ian here. Past Ian didn't explain this particularly well. So by default, an image texture will just use the first UV map in the list. In fact, you don't even have to specify which UV map it's supposed to use, because it will use the first one. You can go in and say, hey, use UV map 1, but it's kind of a waste of time unless you want to stay organized. Unfortunately, in this case, you can see this object only has the 1 UV map. This one has a few other UV maps. If we join this one to this one, Control J, suddenly the first one from here is added to the end of the other ones, which means this texture, assuming it should use the first UV slot, is now using a UV map 2 from the other object, and it's just a mess. And the easy way to avoid that is to just say, hey, UV map, you use number 1, and then everything will still work. And then if we join everything, okay, great. Okay, now that's working. That's good. And here, let's rotate it 90 degrees. Yes, and to do the array, actually, let's do the curve first. So if you're ever going to align something to a curve, you want both of them to have the same origin, otherwise things get kind of crazy. So we'll select the object, hit Shift-S, cursor to selected, which snaps it to the origin. So when we create a curve here, it'll start in the, it'll be in the exact same place. Whoa, this is a lot of different curves. Bezier, right up there at the top. And it's kind of hidden in there, but we do have a curve. I'm going to scale it up a little bit. Now if we select this, and under modifiers we say curve, and we say use the only curve you got, it's doing its thing. That's great. Okay. And now let's add our array, and it is crazy because we have to have the array before the curve, otherwise they'll just keep arraying the curved version. This is on the wrong axis, although I do like having both of those lanes next to each other. That's cool. But here, let's change it to be this way instead of this way. And because we've got everything overlapping, we'll have to put in kind of a custom offset, but hopefully we can just kind of drag this until the Jersey barrier kind of fits a little bit. I've run out of granularity, but here we'll just do that. And you can see the glitch here is going crazy because both of the streets are perfectly overlapping. Unfortunately, if I tab into edit mode, we can't see how much it's overlapping anymore because it ignores the curve. But we can make it not ignore the curve if we select this box here, and that way, ideally, if we tab in edit mode, yeah, we can still kind of see what it's doing. So I'll grab this line here, and I'm just going to pull it back until we have just the tiniest little crack there. And yeah, okay, there we go. That's looking good. So now we can actually make this do what we want it to do. The original point of this tutorial was going to be making an overpass that like branched off. It had another lane diverging, but that was going to be a lot of work, and I'm glad we're not trying to do that. Ooh, I actually like this view a little bit more than the other one. Maybe I'll kind of split the difference. I won't keep it dead on. I think I err on the side of keeping things too orthogonal too often. I think this will be a great angle here. And one thing we can do, you can see the seam doesn't really line up here. If we really care, Here, let's grab this piece here, and then Control-Shift-Click down here. Come on, come on. Let me grab it. Yes, there we go. And I think if we just scale this on the y-axis, we should be able to fix that. So there we go. There's the edge here. And let's just move it until... There we go. That lines up great. We've got our nice road. And I guess that's kind of the end of the video. I ended up going ahead and getting distracted. I'll show you what with in a second. But here, let's kind of finish this up. I'm gonna slide this up on the y-axis. And earlier, when I accidentally rayed it in the wrong direction, that kind of looked cool. I liked having, you know, one separate lane going each direction. So let's add another array here. We'll move it above the curve, and this one we will have offset just sideways like that. So we'll put it on the other side of the curve. We'll kind of center this, and I want to add some supports. And remember, anything you want to have arrayed out along the curve, you want to have sharing the same origin point as the curve. So Shift-S, cursor to selected, and now let's create like a cube here. And let's actually make it follow the curve first. Here, we'll set up our array, and hopefully this will all just kind of work. Follow the curve. Select the curve, and yeah, there we go. All right, that's doing good. Here, we'll separate these out like this. And if I want to be able to edit this and still see what it looks like holding up the freeway, because we're trying to make one of those support things, I can click the edit button here, and now I kind of get my little ghost version. And let's see. I don't know what the best way to do this is. I'm gonna just grab this one and that one. Alt-E, extrude faces along normals. Gonna scale it down. Alt-E. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe we'll have kind of a little hand type thing. And, oh, where's our little ghost? Yeah, there we go. Like that. Maybe we'll grab this piece and bevel them a little bit. And, yeah, anyways, kind of just, it's fun. Ooh, let's add one more lane. That would be great. Look, we can just keep it going. This thing is a huge freeway. How's it look rendered? Probably not as cool as I think. And crank the lights up. Oh yeah, this is some cyberpunk freeway stuff going on. I should learn geometry nodes. I don't know. People are doing cool stuff with automatically driving traffic and all that. Anyway, so yes, I finished the first version of this shot. It's got butts in it, which is funny if you think butts are funny. But then I got distracted because the car is supposed to start driving around like crazy. But I remembered seeing this physics-based car rigging solution by Austin, and it's actually really fun. I got the pro version because I'm going to be doing a lot of car animation and stuff. But it looks like the free version's got some good features too, and it lets you animate with your keyboard keys, which is really fun. But it also lets you control it like a little Xbox controller, which I didn't even know you could do. So I can, like, you know, look at that. I'm just driving my car model around. I don't know, I guess I try not to talk too much about paid add-ons here on the Patreon, but this one's really fun. Because it's supposed to be the scene where the taxi's, you know, driving through all of these narrow streets, and I was just able to play it like a video game, and just save that animation, and then that looks so fun that I decided to build up the rest of the environment around it, and it's basically just kit bashed. It's mostly copied and pasted from old stuff, but I'm trying to go through now and add enough new things and added life that it doesn't just feel, you know, super copy and pasty. But yeah, it's very fun. I don't know. I'm still admittedly just going nuts trying to bash out episode 4 as fast as I can. Episodes 2 and 3 basically done. Brendan just sent me the latest preview of the Single Point in Space episode. Days away from being done, and I guess, I don't know, I'm just repeating myself at this point, but thanks for hanging out. I kind of needed to just push out a video to remind myself I could do it, because I start overthinking things if I don't put out a video, so this is hopefully the one to get that overthinking out of my system, so I'll see you soon. Have a good one.